Hello, Sumter County Democrats. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Barbie and in 2024 I was your Democratic nominee for Florida's 11th Congressional District. And I can never stand in front of you without, of course, expressing how grateful and indebted to all of you that I truly am, because somehow all of you helped me, and it's still so strange to say, for less than $75,000, with no staff, with no campaign experience, somehow you all helped the stay-at-home mom have the largest Democratic swing of any Florida congressional district in 2024. And against the longest-serving politician in Florida history. But thankfully for all of you, I'm not here to talk about me. I've been given the honor of introducing our keynote speaker this evening. The first time I met David Jolly was in September when our second gentleman, Doug Imhoff, joined us here in Villages. And I don't know if I have hit this well or if it's kind of right out there in the open, but this stuff terrifies me. I do not do this stuff well. Maybe not amongst friends like you, but in a situation like that, the second gentleman, a production like that, for those of you who were there, you know, but for those of you who were not, it was a room with a stage, cameras everywhere. I mean, it was a presidential production. And those of you who were there know, I arrived at the time I was told to arrive, and there was no parking. None. None. And I remember asking, because all of you out here in Sumter County arrived probably 2 hours before you were told to arrive. And I remember stopping and asking like the police or security, like, is there anywhere I can park? I'm supposed to speak. They're like, no, you're just gonna have to like go a mile down the road. And I finally found one of those illegal places to park, and if I get towed, I'll figure it out. You know, I'll sleep on somebody's couch tonight, I don't know. So finally when we're let in, and I'm already freaking out, and they lead us into this room, I'm escorted back to this tiny little green room. They did write my speech for me, but as I arrive, they're like, oh, by the way, we changed the speech, here you go. So I'm already freaking out. And I'm in this little green room, and there were other VIPs there, but they didn't have to talk. So they're all chatting away. I am in the corner, sweating, losing my mind, freaking out, and then in walk the Jollies. They're beautiful. They're put together. Everything you would expect a political family to be. And they're probably wondering, who is this strange anxiety troll over in the corner, losing her mind? And even in my doom dive of despair, I'm able to notice David and Laura's beautiful children, who are so well behaved. I asked David tonight because I didn't know how old they were, and he said that they were 4 and 6. And I do hear that they say that they had just driven straight up from Pinellas County. And I want to tell you guys, I'm a good mother, I promise. My children are wonderful children. But maybe they just have a little bit of my Lake County in them. Because I promise you, even with a 30-minute drive in the car, we would not exit the vehicle that put together. At all. I have learned the hard way. I do not bring my kids to events where there are cameras, where we will be seen, because unfortunately, they would have stormed that stage. One of my children would have stormed that stage, would have found that microphone, because unfortunately, sometimes I get nervous that we're gonna end up like a viral video on the internet sometimes. So, on the other hand, these children were little angels. They were so well behaved. And I was impressed. If they can achieve what every parent knows is all but impossible, can he maybe pull off what every Florida politico has deemed impossible for a Florida Democrat in November 2026? In all seriousness, for this mom of 4, I loved that I saw an attentive, loving, and caring father backstage that day, even when he was preparing to speak on stage immediately before the second gentleman of the United States of America. He still was there for his children and gave them the time and attention. I also know that David Jolly has not been a person that has avoided the tough questions since he has entered this race with his prior history as a Republican congressman. I joined him at a town hall not very many months ago in Orange County, where there were people who entered that room not too happy that he was joining us. But those same people left glad that he was there, because he was able to change their minds that night. And I believe that we will see more of those people over the next year as he continues to work throughout Florida. But I also believe that others of you are already convinced, and you're finally happy for me to stop talking and introduce former Congressman and maybe future Florida Governor, David Jolly.
Doing that. Barbie, thank you for that introduction. Several of you were at that event. You've spoken to me about that event, and I have to tell you a somewhat personal story about that. Our kids were 3 and 5 at the time. We don't, as Barbie said, we don't take our kids to many political events for the reasons that you can imagine. But that one was a little different, including when they wrote my script. I showed up and said, I'm not saying any of this, but but look, our kids were 3 and 5 at the time. Their very first political event was at the Villages. That's right. Now, our 3-year-old still marches around the backyard saying, we're not going back. And our daughter keeps getting in trouble talking about Kamala in a very Trump neighborhood that we live in. But I'm a person of deep Christian faith. I'm not here to evangelize, but the Bible says raise up your children in the way they should go. And we're raising Democrats in the Jolly household. you have also commented on my work with MSNBC. There's not a punchline to this. I just want to say thank you for being a part of the MSNBC family, if that's where you choose to get your news. I really mean that something you kind of learned through your career in TV, that the viewership is part of the family and is part of the circle. And without it, you're really nothing as a media platform. So, you know, hey, Jose Diaz-Balart used to sign off by saying, thank you for the privilege of your time. I mean that. For those who have viewed regularly, thank you, to use his line, for the privilege of your time. For those who are not regular viewers of MSNBC over the last 10 years, you probably saved a lot of money on alcohol or counseling or calories. So give mightily to the Sumter Democratic Party tonight with all of those savings. Or to Hernando or Citrus or Lake or to anyone who's here represented. Thank you for this. I actually just drove down from Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania, not Pinellas. My wife is from central Pennsylvania. The last week in July is the county fair in a town of about 400 people. And for our kids, it's like Disney World. And so they fly. I drive the family car round trip back and forth. But I did notice as I crossed into the state, it's hot. Welcome to Florida, where it's 115 degrees and we got storms brewing in the Atlantic, but we deny climate science in Tallahassee. But that can change. That can change if we elect a Democratic governor next November. Look, we are a family of deep Christian faith, and I mention that simply because that's part of my origin story. I don't say that to evangelize or to bring that into the courthouse or the state house. One of the mistakes that I made as a young member of Congress was applying my faith to constitutional questions. And I was wrong to do that. Part of my journey was learning as I served. And I actually tested a different question in politics. Is it okay to change your mind in politics? I think it is. I think it is. I think many of us have changed, particularly in the last 10 years since the emergence of the president. Some of us have hardened our beliefs, some have become more active, some have changed their positions, some have changed their parties. Count me in with that crowd. I'm not sure, and listen, you will see me for the next 16 months having this conversation openly. Because the way we win this race is we get into every community and tell our story and why we believe it's a time for change. I don't think the problem in politics is politicians who won't change, or who change. I think it's politicians who won't change. And at least those who won't admit it. You know who's changed the most is our Republican friends. The party I belong to believed in fiscal responsibility and less government. Now they're blowing up the budget and they want Ron DeSantis in your doctor's office, your classrooms, your libraries, and your bedroom. I'm afraid any of the candidates looking to succeed him will just follow on that journey. We meet tonight and in this campaign cycle, honestly, I'm not being hyperbolic. This is a pivotal moment in Florida's history. This is a pivotal moment in Florida's history. This is bigger than politics. We are a state desperately in need of adults. Of adults. Of adult leadership. Of people who, like I know you in this room, can say, this is the problem we have, and this is how we fix it, and let's go do it. And honestly, what I love about a governor's race is it comes down to the basics. I'm going to talk a little bit about the values, political values, but I think American values that we should bring into this race. But it's pretty simple if you drop all of the partisanship and the anger and the divisiveness we hear from the other side of the aisle too often. It's about an economy that's working, a government that serves, and a state where everyone's welcome. Are we ensuring safe communities, providing education for our families who need it, making sure you can get to work, and is there an economy where young people can stay and retirees have the opportunity to afford? Those are the basics of a governor's race. And that's what we are going to focus in on. Look, for 4 to 5 months now, I've been all across the state doing a series of town halls. And I was sharing earlier, I don't buy this notion that there's not Democratic Party infrastructure. Look to your left and right. We're the infrastructure. We're the infrastructure. In every one of these town halls, there's been someone who organizes the event. A Chris, a Bill, a Bob, someone who organizes the event, puts the infrastructure behind it, gets the venue, sends out the invitations, takes the RSVPs, raises the money. Folks, that's the infrastructure we need to win. That's our coalition. Now, I will point out, in virtually every situation, it's been a woman who does it. Which I think just shows us women will lead the way, and women will lead the way towards change. You know who became a Democrat in our house before I did? My wife. It was during the presidential convention, the Democratic National Convention last summer, when Democrats invited in independents. We had been independents for 6 or 7 years. They were talking about a strong national defense, a party where everyone was welcome, an economy that works for everybody. My wife walked out after the vice president's speech and said, "I think I'm a Democrat." And she went online and she signed up. But I have to, so look, I'm a 5th generation Floridian. I don't say that because it makes me any better or worse than the person who moved here yesterday. I genuinely mean that. It's just to offer a bit of my perspective on this. Florida to me had always been a place where there was a certain dream to it. Whether you were born here like I was, and you had the opportunity to enjoy clean air and clean water. I was talking to somebody about Tropical Park in Miami and catching lizards and turtles. There was a certain dream to it. You knew there was something special about the opportunity to be born in Florida, to live in Florida. For people who moved here, retired here, there was a reason you came here. Maybe it was to get out of shoveling snow one last time, right? Maybe it was for lower taxes, a lower cost of living, a quality of life. That dream was real. But as I have traveled the state, I have to tell you, and I think many of you feel this, that dream has turned into a bit of fatigue, to anxiety. It's unsettling. The state has changed so dramatically in the past decade. We are a state burdened, gripped by an affordability crisis right now. It's hitting every walk of life in every corner of the state, from young people to retirees to homeowners to families. There's an affordability crisis that's hitting every voter registration. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. And we're also a state that has been gripped by unnecessary culture wars that seek to divide us, to welcome only certain people, and to express disdain to others. That dream feels out of reach or broken or gone. And I don't think that has to be the case. I don't think that has to be the case. We have an affordability crisis in Florida that is generational in the midst of a national change environment. That provides us as Democrats the opportunity to take our values into the public square and say, this is how we want to lead if given the opportunity. I talk about 3 values in our politics that I see fundamentally representing today's Democratic Party, but more importantly, the coalition of voters ready to be led by the Democratic Party. One of the things I like about being a Democrat is we get to accept math, and science, and data, and public health. The math is the math. There are not enough registered Democratic voters to elect a Democrat by ourselves. But that does not mean we change who we are. That does not mean we change our values. In fact, when we get our values right, you have voters like David Jolly and Laura Jolly rushing into the party because we see in the party values that are right for our family and our politics and for the state. What are those values? We need an economy that works for everyone. Everyone. Not just the rich and the reckless. Everyone. That's a capitalist economy, but it's fair capitalism. that says we are going to recognize there are still disparities that are based upon generations of discrimination, economic discrimination, racial discrimination. But we believe capitalism lifts everybody up, but we're the party of fair capitalism. It says when your personal economy gets disrupted, when you lose your job, when you come on hard times, instead of falling and hitting the pavement, you're going to be caught by a safety net that ensures you have security of housing, access to health care, excellence in education, transportation. The economy should work for everyone. Secondly, the government should actually serve its people. It's seniors, it's veterans, it's storm victims, Florida's families in need of education. The government has a role in our lives. The other side of the aisle would call it socialism. I call it public education, health care, transportation, safe communities. The government has a role in our lives. It needs to be as efficient as it can be, but the government has a role and a responsibility to serve its communities. And finally, the third value, if the first is an economy for all, a government that serves, the third is this must be a state, and it is a democratic party, where everyone is welcomed and celebrated and lifted up, regardless of the color of your skin, where you were born, who you love, or who you are. David Jolly. The candidate is one piece of a broad coalition. When we win, the culture wars end on day one. Not out of defeat, not out of resignation, but because we return to a state where everyone is welcome and celebrated and lifted up. That's why. Look, on the economy, we have an economic and affordability crisis. I know it is not felt the same by everybody, but we know 51% of the state right now is what's termed ALICE, essentially paycheck to paycheck. ALICE is asset limited, income constrained, but employed. These are working families. 51% of the state is living paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford a new set of tires if they have parts work. That's an affordability crisis. But we also know we have an insurance crisis in the state of Florida, a homeowner's insurance crisis in the state of Florida that has been created by Republican neglect in Tallahassee. We are not going to see a robust private property insurance market come back to the state of Florida because we have ignored climate science for too long and there's not a private market to cover natural disasters. That is true in Florida, in Texas, in California. It is just a waiting game before that market ends. What Republicans have done is they brought in undercapitalized firms, promised them a bailout if the big storm hits, allow them to ship their profits out of state for tax purposes, keep their losses here, and pay their CEO $20 million. They are just keeping the house of cards going until they can get out of town and the next Republican inherits it. We need a state catastrophic fund that removes hurricane coverage from the private market. It'll reduce property insurance by 50, 60, 70% in most cases. Now we also have to be honest. Again, we're honest about math as Democrats. We have to fund that CAP fund. But every single study suggests that the amount of savings to a homeowner in that environment, to a renter who receives that savings passed through, is dramatic. Here's the problem. Republicans won't do it because they'll call it socialism. I just call it cheaper insurance. Where the private market fails, the government has a responsibility to step in. It's true in healthcare, it's true in property insurance. But we also have a property tax crisis that is preventing first-time home buyers from entering the market. Look, 25 years ago, for those who have been here a long time, the crisis we were facing was property insurance and property taxes in the 2000s. The issue then was the home values were exploding, and longtime homeowners couldn't stay in their homes. So we came up with Save Our Homes and portability. That was a Tallahassee response, an important one. We needed it. It has done incredible good. But 20 years later, we now have an encumbrance for people entering the market as first-time home buyers because they catch a 300, 400% uptick in taxes in the second year of buying their home. A first-time home buyer can't access the market because of property insurance and property taxes right now. We need generational property tax reform that keeps Save Our Homes and portability, but also brings in a first-time home buyer step up in basis, something that provides relief. We need transportation that focuses on clean, multimodal public transportation, not just building highways that charge you $10 to get to work. We need workforce housing. Workforce housing. Not just affordable housing, we need workforce housing. And we can drive down utility costs by bringing in clean and renewable energies, not just being good stewards of the environment, but reducing monthly costs. All these actually have answers and solutions. It is Republicans connected to special interests that are preventing it. And I don't say that with conjecture or to call them out just to play the blame game. It is to say there are answers that our leaders aren't giving us. In a moment of generational change, we have the opportunity to offer solutions to people's affordability crisis. But we also need to be a party that recognizes, as I say, the government needs to serve its people. And if the affordability crisis is number one on my list, the second is public education.
Yes.
Public education. This state has abandoned public education. Even today, though, a shout out to our teachers, our administrators, our volunteers, our assistants, our students. Despite being defunded for 20 years, despite moving money to the voucher program in private schools, still today the greatest access to excellence in education is in our public schools, not our private schools. The greatest access to the arts, to the trades remain in our public schools. But you have teachers who are doing 3 jobs who used to have to do 1. Our teachers are paid worst in the nation. Worst in the nation. That is a moral wrong. It is a moral wrong. It is a moral wrong that our teachers in the 3rd largest state in the country are paid worst in the nation. It's a choice. It's a choice by Republicans. They've created a voucher program that is now moving money without restraint into private schools. The first year we went to universal vouchers, 70% of the families receiving vouchers were already enrolled in public school, in private schools. 70%. Republicans gave away the plot. This was no longer about helping families in need. This was about abandoning public education. I think it's wrong. For a couple of reasons. Public education is the place where communities can come together and where we can create opportunity. But if you defund public schools and you fund environments, not education, you fund environments that outcompete public education, where do you think families are going to go? We need to bring back dramatic reforms to the voucher system. Immediately bring back means testing. Immediately bring back means testing. Secondly, if a school accepts a voucher, they have to cap the rate of inflation. You don't get to charge the state and charge the family, which is also what happened as soon as the schools figured it out. We're going to take the voucher money and we're going to turn around and charge families an extra $5 grand, $8 grand, $10 grand because we can. Because they were used to doing it, because they were already enrolled in their school. But most importantly, if you are a private school that receives state money through the voucher program, you have to provide the same services, the same standards, the same testing. Listen, this is a lived experience forgive me for being the analyst here, a lived experience for Republican performing Florida's families who have seen that their public school's been abandoned. It's a lived experience in our county and our community. Our local public school looks like it's from 70 years ago with portables and trailers in the back. And you go to any voucher school and it's all the new construction and it's safe, right? Because we don't have school choice. We have a false choice. But if we say a school is going to accept voucher money and a 1st grade kid can't read, I was about to cuss, I'm sorry. Darn it. That school should have to provide an IEP for that 1st grade student to make sure they learn to read. You don't just disenroll that kid and send them back to public school. But that's the environment. Look, the government has a responsibility. I think we need a renaissance in public education over over the next 10 years. It's taken 20 years of attack to get it where it's taken. This doesn't change on day one. If politicians could fix things on day one, the war in Ukraine would be over. But we need leadership in Tallahassee that says, we're gonna set a target of a 30% pay raise for public school teachers. It might take us 3 years, but we're gonna set a target, we're gonna get there. We are going to reinvest in capital infrastructure, and we are going to design public education in the state of Florida that creates opportunities for every young person, whether they pursue academics, the trades, the arts, the theater, whatever opportunity it is they want. We should have the best public education system in the entire country, if not the world, here in the state of Florida. It's a choice. It's a choice that we don't. And it's an easy choice to reverse with the right leadership. We need a government that ensures we have safe communities and fights crime. And folks, we can be a Democratic Party that's tough on crime.
Yes.
But you know what we can do? We can fight crime without fighting communities. We can fight crime without fighting communities. I find it heartbreaking in the last 5, 10 years that Republicans have somehow been able to successfully conflate immigration and crime. Too many Republican leaders, I believe, are fighting communities, and then they go looking for crime. That's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. We can be a party that's tough on crime. If you were born here, if you immigrated here, or if you're the first lady who stole $10 million from the Medicaid program, we can commit to investigating you and making sure that you're held accountable. But we can also be a party that recognizes immigration is good for our state. For communities that continue to contribute richly to our culture and to our economy, we want people in this state willing to do that. I'm not sure the best use of our law enforcement officers is to go after somebody who for 20 years has been working a day's labor to put food on the table and raise their kids to have a bit of American opportunity. I think we focus on reducing gun violence and drug trafficking. And we commit to preventing the next school shooting. Florida's families will be much better off than if we attack an immigrant family that's just trying to be a part of the American dream. Those are choices that are being made. Choices also in how the government serves have affected our clean air and our clean water, as we have favored development over smart growth and managed growth. We have unrestrained development in some counties where they're running out of water. We have developers leading our water boards and our water districts. I'll skip ahead to something here, but one of the first things you get to do as governor, and I say this with a little bit of lament, because I hate that this is where our politics are in the state. If I'm elected governor, on the first day, we get to fire just about all of Ron DeSantis' appointments. Go through the list of the state university system, to our college boards, to our water districts, to our utilities. We get to bring back people who believe in science and data and diversity and equity. People who oversee the environment, who understand the importance of clean air and clean water. And listen, it's not just about stewardship of the environment, it's also about Florida's economy.
Yes.
We have an environmental economy in the state of Florida. An environmental economy that we're ignoring. There is so much more we can do if we accept the role of government to serve. Some of you may have been touched in your own families or in your community. Individuals with developmental disabilities, aging parents worried about their adult child, where they will live, how they will be taken care of. We're in the bottom 30s as a state for actually accepting the responsibility of government to care for our collective society. That's wrong. That's something we can fix. The economy should work for everyone. The government should actually serve, but as I mentioned, we need to be a state where everyone is welcome. This is where I was going to talk about firing all of DeSantis' appointees. I want our kids at 6 and 4 years old, appropriately, to be exposed to the greatest amount of diversity, cultural diversity, faith diversity, life diversity, because it makes them stronger, better people, better humans, more equipped to choose their own way, more equipped to be a part of a society that relies on caring for each other, respecting each other. I want my kids exposed to diversity. At home, my wife and I can orient our family around the values that we think are right for our family and prepare them at the age of majority to make decisions that will be right for them. I'm not threatened by diversity. As a parent, I welcome it. I want it. Some of the Republican leaders right now who are worried about what their kids are getting exposed to need to worry less about the public square and instead their own parenting confidence. It ain't easy. Those with kids, you get it. We all know, look, the challenges are hard. You want partners in your life, institutions that partner with you, but I don't want institutions that hide the ball from them. I want institutions that prepare them and equip them. And as I mentioned, a state where everyone is welcome and everyone is lifted up means an end to the culture wars. Means getting government out of your doctor's office. Listen, one of the areas I know questions have come up, and because I will be back often, but that doesn't mean we always have time to discuss this. One of the areas that my journey has taken me is, as I started in politics, as I mentioned, wrongly applying my Christian faith to constitutional questions, as I served and as I grew and understood the importance not just of reproductive health care in underserved communities, but the ability of women to make their own decisions. We need a state that respects bodily autonomy and lets women make their own decisions with their doctors and their doctors' offices. That is the language of Amendment 4. I supported Amendment 4. I would fight for the language of Amendment 4 if I'm elected governor. And here's the thing. I don't understand why Tallahassee leaders, any political leader, can look at a ballot initiative that gets more than 50% of the vote. Whether it's reproductive freedom, open primaries, recreational marijuana, go down the list. If the state has said this is what we want to do, you don't need to hold that 60% threshold as a hurdle. You were just told by the majority of the state as governor, go do this. The legislature can pass it tomorrow. We need a governor that's willing to fight for the majority of the state. That includes on I know Barbie said this, and I know we all know this. This is not going to be easy. It is not easy to be an optimist Democrat in the state of Florida. But I am in a room that understands that. Between Sumter County and Hernando and the villages, you all understand what it means to leave it all on the field every day, fighting for the values that you know are right for our state and for our country. In a dream, or in a state that holds so many dreams, I promise you this. I've been involved in Florida politics for 30 years. We can win this race next Sunday. Enough. But we have to go where the harvest is. We have to be a party and a coalition that takes our values and amplifies them where we have failed to in the past. At least where we have failed to successfully do them. That means sitting with the faith community and saying, this is why our values, we believe, best align with the teachings of faith. All faiths, the basics, love, joy, kindness, dignity, respect. This is why we believe expanding Medicaid and providing health care for people actually better reflects the teachings of faith. Why providing independence to people through laws actually recognizes the autonomy of the individual who's been created in the image of whatever God you worship. We have to sit with the faith community. We have to go to gun owners. Now I know there may be a lot in this room. This is Central Florida. Look, this is an area of my journey as well. I've moved pretty far left on some of these issues. Look, we need dramatic gun violence prevention legislation. We definitely need to roll back the Parkland security measures, which my opponent wants to do. But we need to sit with gun owners and realize and say and speak the language that we know responsible gun owners are not the problem. We're not trying to take away access of a responsible gun owner to own a firearm. But if we can pass aggressive gun violence prevention legislation, we will save your kids just like we save ours. We will save your grandkids just like we save ours. I'm not sure how far we will get with this, but we have to have that conversation with gun owners. Because when you break down the orthodoxy, the reflexive orthodoxy, everybody agrees that we need to save kids. Everybody agrees we need to prevent the next mass shooting, whether it's a school, a place of worship, a supermarket, and it's simply not good enough for Republicans to get away with ignoring it. That's the answer that they give us. We all experience school shootings in our gut and in our soul. I know differently than any others, but I have covered live school shootings too many times. Too many times. To watch what I know is the practice of Republican politics to just ignore it until the news story goes away. It's wrong. The day Uvalde happened, I was live on the air with Nicole Wallace, and as though she needs a last name to anyone in this room, I'm sure not. She's my ride or die, by the way, buddy. It's a very dynamic environment when there's a school shooting. In Uvalde, the closest news crew was 45 minutes away. You have to kill 45 minutes of time just speaking about tragedy. What had happened that morning was we had done our kindergarten tour with our daughter. I know you all have experienced this. You see signs in schools now that maybe weren't there when we were kids. The code red signs, the drill signs, the what do you do if there's a shooting. My daughter was 4. We went to a big girl lunch, celebrated. We came home, and live on air, the story happened. It is not good enough that our Republican leaders in Tallahassee continue to ignore gun violence in the state of Florida. We also have to go into the ag community and say your labor markets are tight, but they're tight because of the governor's war on immigrants, not because of his war on crime. And if we welcome immigrant labor in the state of Florida, we can work with you in the ag community as leading Democrats. We also have to be Democrats that go into South Florida, though, and say what few have been willing to do. And I've survived 4 months of doing this now. We have to go into South Florida and say socialism's wrong. Socialism's wrong. Now, we can have a debate over the nuance of socialism, right? Public health care, transportation, crime fighting, of course, it's all socialized through taxpayer dollars. We can have that debate. But for the South Florida community that fled regimes, where they were crippled by a state-run economy, where the state picked the winners and losers, it does matter in the state of Florida to defend a capitalist economy, but a capitalist economy that lifts everyone up, that provides a safety net, as I mentioned. Look, this is a little different race. We have a chance to win. We have a chance to win. We have to meet voters exactly where they're at on these issues. This is not a race about the President of the United States. I know the level of activism you all engage in. Thank you for that. I have made my opinions on the President known. It's how it landed me into a TV career. I'm not suggesting abandon your convictions about the President. All I'm saying is when you're talking about the governor's race and the President, please do it in 2 different emails. Because the way we get an Andy Beshear in Kentucky and a Steve Bullock in Montana is not to litigate in the Florida governor's race the President of the United States. It's to litigate who has the answers for an affordability crisis and for ending the culture wars and for ensuring government serves its people. That's what this governor's race is about. I will end where I started with a story about Cece, our daughter. We have a little bedtime routine. It's gone on way too long. I started a fictitious story about Ernie the elephant and Fred the frog when she was about 2 years old. And every night, even now, tell me about Ernie and Fred. And I have to get creative because, after 4 years of this, there's been a lot of Ernie and Fred stories. But I'm telling her about Ernie and Fred. Maybe we're reading a book and boom, she interrupts me. My daughter's the precocious one, the confident one. She's going to be just fine in life. We just got to set the guardrails. She'll ping pong off and she'll be fine. Our son may never leave the home, but our daughter's going to be just fine. Cece interrupts me and says, "Dad, will I be like you when I grow up?" Right? The feels, you get it. Some of you have experienced that. You see it in a movie. It's that poignant moment. Now, I will point out, she said, "Will I be?" Not "I want to be." But she said, "Will I be like you when I grow up?" And I got to tell you something that happened that it took me months to reconcile in my brain. My immediate thought was, I hope not. I hope not, right? For two reasons. As I unpacked it, I realized, one, just that parenting protective reflex. I thought of the broken hearts and the skinned knees and the playgrounds and the friends and the missed grades and the missed sports teams and whatever the disappointment is in life we all have to face, and I thought, I hope our little daughter doesn't have any of that. I know that's not realistic. But the second reason was I thought in the traditional lens, is she asking, should she go into politics? Does she want to be in politics? And in this moment, my reflex was, I hope not. I hope not. Now, listen, it took me a while to really process this, and I realize and I know now, if a young child wants to get into politics and change the world, God bless them, go do it. In fact, when my daughter wasn't sure if we should get in the governor's race, she had a vote. I finally said to her, and I mean this with conviction, if you have a chance to change the world, you take it. If you have a chance to change the world, you take it. We were just sharing at the table, everyone needs to do what's within reach. Right? For some, it is organizing, it is phone calls, it is giving $5, $10, $50. For others, it's running for office, as Barbie did, and others in this room. If you have a chance to change the world, you take it. And ultimately, what I wanted our daughter to understand was this may be a very toxic environment right now. But that's a fight that our generation needs to solve for her generation. That's a fight that if we are successful, our daughter will have the opportunity to be whoever she wants to be, to choose whatever she wants to choose for a career, to love whoever she wants to love. And she'll be a young girl who grows up maybe with the same rights that our son has. But in this environment, that's not the case. That's not the case. It is part of my journey to the Democratic Party that where Republican ideology gets strictly applied, it actually hurts people's lives. I don't say that as an insult. It's just been my experience. Ideology is easy in theory. But when it means you're taking affordable health care away from people, when it means you're taking away individual rights, when it means you're attacking immigrant communities, when it means you're defunding education for Florida's families, when it means you're allowing the pollution of our waterways and our air, when it means you're allowing Florida to become a home only for the rich and the reckless, not for the rest of us, I just think they've gotten it all wrong in the past couple of decades. We've got an opportunity to change that. I'm going to ask you to do one thing tonight. It is not to get out your cell phone and take a QR code. Do that for the Sumter County Democrats, by the way, please. Look, we just started this race. We need to unify this race early. We need to be Democrats that go into next calendar year unified on change and prepared to contrast ourselves, not with each other, but with Republicans. With Republicans. Because the opportunity to win next November means showing our contrast of values every day between where we are as a Democratic-led coalition and where today's Republican leaders are. It is not about a circular firing squad where we test each other for the purpose of democratic political sport. We'll lose this race if we do that. All of us have to reach out, grab the person next to you and do this together. But here's what I'm going to ask you to do. It's not send $5. It's not even commit to supporting me politically. The first thing we have to do as a team is believe. Believe. My wife and I faced this question before we got in the race. Do we believe we can win? And secondly, if we win, do we believe we can make a difference? I know we can win. I need the rest of the state, led by powerful, impactful Democrats like each of you in this room, to believe that this is the moment in Florida history. This is the time where change is possible, where the moment is meeting us halfway. Believe that if we do our part, if we build our coalition, that we will meet that moment halfway. Believe that we can restore excellence in public education, a renaissance in Florida's education, that we can deliver lower insurance and taxes for families that need it, that we can invest in generational multimodal transportation. Believe that we can build smart infrastructure. Believe that we can invest in Florida's families. Believe that we can create a Florida where your kids and grandkids and my kids can have the same dreams that we each brought to this state whenever we arrived. Believe. And here's the answer to that ask. You already do. You already do. You already believe. If you thought this cause was lost, particularly in a deep red part of the state, you would not be volunteering your time. You would not be at this dinner. You would not be contributing. You would not be riding in golf carts. You would be home Googling Portugal. Half this room knows what I'm talking about. You would be researching expats, tax status. Folks, you already believe. I do too. I am committed to running this race and leaving it all on the field and doing my part. But this is a we race, not a me race. This is not about David Jolly winning the governorship. This is about all of us in this room. This is about the state of Florida demanding generational change. If we build that, we will have built a movement that is unstoppable. Unstoppable. I know we can win this race. And when we do, we're going to change lives for everyone in this room and for generations to come. Thank you all very much.
Vision of our state and this country. So thank you so much for your words of wisdom, your words of encouragement, and we know we can make a difference, each one of us. So thank you for being here. You are all in our database of volunteers because you did the postcards, and you're going to take the little cards and spread the word of democracy. We're grateful to the planning team. Some of you were lucky bidders and you got a little sheet from the planning team that you won one of the silent auctions. If you buy it now, just go to the front table, they have those. We've added now, you have a little pen, Write for Democracy, so put your name and address on here, it'll make it quicker. And you will take those to the front desk out these doors. But first, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being part of the spirit of this county that is going to make a difference in Sumter County, the surrounding counties, and in the state of Florida. Have a great evening, and thank you. David,